So today we're going to talk about Dick Grayson. We're going to go over the former Robin's physical abilities, his build, and his mental state. And we're going to talk about what routine you could follow in real life to get as close as possible to that. We're also going to have a little surprise at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Richard Grayson, aka Nightwing, trained under the one and only Batman. With that training, Nightwing became one of the best combatants in the DC universe. However, before even being trained by Batman, he was already a one-of-a-kind athlete. He worked with his family as a trapeze artist. They traveled with Haley's circus, and at maybe the age of 12, he was one of 4 people in the world who was capable of doing a quadruple flip. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what he's capable of and see what we can take from that. Nightwing is able to perform many feats that in our world would be superhuman. A quick example of such a feat is when he took the mantle of Batman. There was a time where he was underwater fighting an orca, and he had to stop the orca from closing its mouth and eating him, so he was able to use his entire body to forcefully keep the orca's mouth open. Orcas have a bite strength of about 4,000 pounds of force. If you Google it, it comes out as like 19,000 psi, but from my understanding that is actually incorrect. But we see that he was exerting enough force to keep the orca from eating him while underwater, while he was holding his breath. It's insane. We also have examples of Nightwing lifting full-grown men, sometimes with one arm. With his insane speed, he's able to dodge bullets. There's multiple examples of him dodging shots from multiple different assailants, dodging shots from cops who are trigger-happy. He dodges lasers, and he mixes his speed and agility to do some crazy nonsensical stuff, like jumping from car to car to catch a moving target, while the cars are on the highway. Then obviously, kind of par for the course, but he's able to fight multiple opponents at once. He's able to do things where he's fighting, he's flipping in the air, and then midair he's throwing things and hitting people with high levels of accuracy. And then he can't go one comic without jumping from the top of a building down to ground level, doing a ton of unnecessary flips, jumping off of railings. He uses buildings as if they were stairs. In Young Justice, we get a glimpse of some of his gymnastics training. We see him perform gymnastics moves like an iron cross, and we see that he is capable of punching a hole, or at least cracking, a concrete cement wall. So we see he has superhuman level strength for a teenage boy. Nightwing's combat resume is ridiculous. Nightwing is a master of many different martial arts, but we're going to focus on some of his main ones. We see him using Escrima to beat enemies into the ground, and then some sources give him savate, which is a French kickboxing style, as one of the martial arts that he's a master of. In my personal opinion, any kicking that he does, and he kicks a lot, it really looks more like Taekwondo to me. Maybe even capoeira. I always say that word wrong. You know, the martial art that Eddie does from Tekken. So the main thing is, if it's flashy, if it involves jumping, if it involves kicking, Nightwing probably does it. He likes to fight with flash and finesse, though he's not opposed to a brutal beatdown if he's in the mood for it. Honestly, there's become a misconception that Nightwing is more of a Boy Scout goody two-shoes, and that Bruce or Jason are the hyper-violent part of the Bat family. Let's be real. All of them are violent. All of them use advanced interrogation techniques to get the information that they want. None of the Bat family are purely goody two-shoes. Running into Nightwing as a criminal should be just as terrifying as running into Batman, because at the end of the day, you're going to be swallowing your teeth either way. Nightwing's cardio is not the best documented. In fact, for most characters, their cardio routines are basically non-existent. So, because of that, we're working with very little information. But we do know that Nightwing is an excellent runner. We know that he spends a lot of time chasing down enemies, jumping across rooftops, running across rooftops. He's very quick, he can catch them in most cases. But an easy example is when he was going undercover in Bloodhaven, he became a cop, which I think is really interesting. I would like to see more vigilantes being cops. But anyway, so while he was in the boot camp trying to train to become a cop, he realized that he was running too quickly, and he did not appear to be a rookie. There were people, exaggeratedly so, but there were people behind him passing out. So he had to dial back his running speed so that way he would blend in better. This isn't something that can be accomplished by accident. A lot of people are gifted in different physical activities. One of my friends is extremely fast. I have other friends who are extremely strong. But training will surpass natural talent if natural talent does not train. Now, my friend who's fast, he's always trained just as much as I have, so I've never caught up to him. But I've surpassed a lot of my friends who were physically stronger than me just because they didn't actually stick with the training. So, with this said, we know that Nightwing must run relatively often. So what we can do is grab a glimpse of the very far future when I make a Batman training video and look at Batman's routine. And in his routine, we see that he runs at least 30 minutes every single day. And I'm stressing at least because there are some days in his routine where he runs so much more. So we can say the same thing for Nightwing with some pretty high level of confidence that Nightwing runs probably 30 minutes every single day. Now, what this might look like in terms of speed and distance would probably be different for Nightwing than it would for people in real life. In real life, 30 minutes of running, if you're pretty good at it, you are probably running 3 miles, you're probably running a 5K on the lower end of that. Nightwing eats a varied diet. Growing up, we know that Alfred cooked for Bruce and for the Robins, so Nightwing probably had fancy British meals. And more than likely, they were extremely healthy. With Bruce's input, with Alfred's knowledge, they were probably very healthy, nutritious meals. But throughout Dick's career from Robin to Nightwing, we see him eat a ton of different things. Once he is in Bloodhaven and he's going solo, he really has a millennial chaotic diet. You'll see him eating cereal while he's about to leave through the window to go do some vigilante stuff. You'll see him eating hamburgers. It's really all over the place and probably not the healthiest stuff. And this kind of leads to an if it fits your macros type of thing. If you are very physically active and if you hit your protein goals, you can really eat whatever you want and still be relatively physically fit. Now, a lot of that is aesthetics based. If you're in a calorie deficit and you're eating enough protein, then your body composition kind of takes care of itself. As for long-term health, you might have some side effects after a while. I don't feel like we see Nightwing eat enough unhealthy food for it to ever actually become a problem. I think it's better to look at it more as he just eats a varied, natural, loose diet. If you haven't already, I strongly recommend that you read Nightwing's early comics where he takes his time to get into Bloodhaven. It's just a nice look at a vigilante who maybe doesn't have the most support. He still gets some gear from Batman. He still has some money, but it's just nice to see kind of like a grassroots type of vigilante work. This is a pretty good comic book run, in my opinion. Now, it's going to be really difficult to talk about a comic book character's physical build. It really depends on who's drawing, who's writing, and what interpretation they're going to take. And then, of course, it's a comic book. Everything is larger than life. It's going to be unrealistic. Nightwing is anywhere from 5 feet 10 inches tall to 6 feet tall. And in general, they're very consistent, showing that he weighs 175 pounds. Nightwing almost always has a very muscular build with a very low amount of body fat. Personally, I would argue that he's not drawn as a gymnast very often, just because he's quite a bit taller and quite a bit heavier than most gymnasts would be in real life. But this is a comic book, everybody's larger than life. In most cases, when you compare Nightwing to Batman, Nightwing is physically smaller, a little shorter, and a little less muscular. And in a lot of cases, Nightwing has a very attainable build. But in other cases, he's a giant hulk of a man. Most of the time when he's drawn like this, it is when he's in the bat suit. I don't think there's any artistic interpretation that the bat suit is padded or whatever. I think a lot of that is just the artists are either used to drawing Batman or they don't want to go through the effort of drawing the bat suit slimmer. And actually, there is an issue in some comic books where a lot of characters end up looking the same. There's one artist, I can't remember his name. He draws characters based off of himself. He references himself. So it has created a situation where Jason and Bruce and maybe Tim, can't really remember, all look the same. It's just a little weird. As far as his mentality goes, Nightwing is just a better version of Batman in almost all cases. He tends to represent the prepared side of Batman, but mixes in some of the hopefulness that you might see in Superman. He often trusts people in situations where maybe they haven't even earned the trust, but it's the right thing to do. And he makes up for that by being like Batman and being so prepared for things to go wrong and just being so physically capable that he's able to handle those situations if they go wrong. If Batman is a pessimist and Superman is an optimist, I would say that Nightwing is a realist. Dick is also a genius. He's an excellent detective and is fully capable of going head-to-head with some of Batman's more intelligent enemies. In Nightwing issue 86, we see Dick is calling into America's Most Wanted, and he's reporting the location of criminals. And he was giving away their locations by simply deducing where they would be based off of the information found in the news. I don't believe it's shown anywhere near enough. This kind of goes back into the representation that they give towards Jason and Batman of being hyper-violent, and Dick as being the goody two-shoes. Sometimes they've been making him seem less intelligent than what he normally is, and they give that to Tim. Nightwing is a genius. They're all geniuses, and I think that needs to be shown and respected more than what it is. And along with being a genius, he is a performer. Because of that circus background, that performer, that never left his heart. That is the soul of who he is. He likes to show off. In fact, there was one comic I remember reading, I think it was Endgame, but in the comic, Batman was doing a ton of flips, he was doing a lot of kicks, he was jumping a lot, and I was like, that's weird, Bruce doesn't really fight like that. Is that Nightwing in the suit? And yeah, that was the plot twist. The plot twist was that Dick was supposed to pretend to be Batman while Bruce was off doing something else. And I thought that was very well written, very well drawn. It was something that you could pick up on by just paying attention to the art on the page. And it was true to the characters. And even in a situation where he was kind of blowing his cover, he was still true to himself. He was still fighting the way he likes to fight. He said before that he feels more at home in the air than he does with both feet on the ground. Nightwing is going to be our first character that is just completely and totally unrealistic. There are people who do the crazy descents from the top of buildings down to the ground using railings and light posts and things like that. Joe Scandrett is actually an excellent example of that. I've linked his Instagram down in the description below. If you want to see some crazy stuff, you should check out his Instagram. He, along with some of the people I've talked about in the past, Taylor Carpenter and Dominic, they are excellent examples of what the human body is capable of. But in most cases, they're doing these things either very rarely or with tons of preparation, or very slowly. Nightwing can jump from a building he's been to once, land on the ground, navigate that fall in a split second, all while chasing somebody or being pursued by somebody else. No one is going to be able to do that consistently before they die. Like, you're gonna mess up at some point, and that's gonna be it. Nightwing is also too good of a fighter. He knows too many fighting styles. He's a professional or a master of too many different fighting styles. No one has time to master that many fighting styles, especially that young, and especially while being so adept at so many other physical things and mental things. He's an excellent detective, forensic investigator. He can pick locks, drive, all kinds of things. You don't have enough time in the day to learn all of those skills and learn 12 different fighting styles. And then, not to harp on this too much because every fictional character is like this, but his recovery is too extreme. He spends most of the night fighting, he spends a lot of the day working out, a lot of the day investigating, a lot of the night investigating. He doesn't ever slow down enough for his body to recover from the things that he just did yesterday. This is a consistent problem, like I said, for most fictional characters, but pretty much all of the Bat family. And that's not even factoring the injuries that he takes on. He's able to heal from things that would permanently cripple normal people. So all that said, Nightwing is very unrealistic. But let's try to grab as much of that potential as we can and see what we can do in real life to get that. So obviously Nightwing has a gymnastics background. You could start gymnastics when you're 5, keep training until you're in your 20s, and you'll be pretty solid. Throw in a martial art somewhere in there, and you're basically there. But you don't have a time machine, so unless you've already done that, that's not an option for you. Personally, I've had a very hard time finding adult gymnastic classes. If you could find a gymnastics class, that would put you on the fast track to attaining these skills. But if you have to learn these things yourself, I would actually suggest that you enroll in some type of martial art, specifically like Taekwondo. Taekwondo matches Nightwing's fighting style very well. It involves a lot of kicking, a lot of jumping, a lot of flashy moves that look really cool and really impressive. Along with that, I would suggest that you engage in strength training. To keep it along the lines of the theme of Nightwing style training, I would suggest that you do something like calisthenics. Calisthenics, especially when you use gymnastics rings, really start to give you that gymnastics build. You're also going to want to look into something called tricking. Tricking can be thought of as a mix of Taekwondo and gymnastics. It normally has a very loose style. Some people will do a tornado kick one way, another person might do it another way. And you can tell that they're tornado kicks, but they look very different. And if you were in a fight, neither of those kicks would probably work. But the point of tricking is to express your individuality in a unique way. But tricking gives you a lot of the really cool, flashy skills that you would see in comic books or martial art movies. So that gives you the physical skills. As for the mental skills, I can't teach you how to turn in America's Most Wanted based off of 30-second news clips. If I could, I would probably be working for the FBI. So what workout routine do I think would best give you these skills? I would actually suggest that you go with a push-pull legs routine, and I picked this split for a few different reasons. Other splits would normally call for fewer training days, and that is a huge benefit. However, I feel like those training days would end up taking too long, and to fit the theme of Nightwing, that would give you a high level of full body soreness at some point that would kind of make the martial art training, the vigilante activities, and things like that a little bit too difficult to do. But with push-pull legs, we can plan around the soreness, around the full body fatigue, and we can get our training sessions done a little faster. For example, if we're doing a push workout that day, but we also have martial art training that day, well, we know that when we go to class, we should probably focus more on our kicks and less on our punching. But if we did a leg exercise that day, we could flip it, or focus more on punching and less on kicks. So here is my proposed schedule. It would be legs and whatever martial art you'd like. I put MMA just because that is really what all of the Bat family do, is mix martial arts. They mix a lot of different martial arts, but it is MMA. Second day would be push and jogging. Third day would be pull and tricking. Fourth day would be rest, with MMA as an option and jogging as an option. Then we have legs, push, MMA, optional, and pull, tricking, and jogging. So there's a lot going on here with this schedule. To fairly match up with what Nightwing would do, we have to include a lot into our week. It's almost like you have to be a billionaire with a ton of free time to get any of this done. However, I do believe that this is a solid routine that almost anyone could follow. The way you're going to make this work is by picking your priority. For example, if tricking is my priority, then I'm going to regulate my effort in the gym. I'm going to use a scale called rate of perceived exertion, which dials my effort in the gym from 1 to 10, 10 being basically a gun to your head, you got to get this done or you're dead. And I'm going to dial my effort down. I'm going to keep my effort closer to a 7, maybe even a 6. Now, I'm not going to make the most progress in the gym. I'm not going to look the best as quickly as possible, but I am going to still maintain my progress and maybe make a little bit more progress. And I'm going to have the energy I need to put into my tricking. I would do the same thing for my martial art. I would dial back my training. I would remove the optional training day. I would only go in to train twice a week instead of 3 times a week. And when I go in, it's going to be very focused on technique and skill. And if I spar, it's going to be very light and easy. And this would all allow for me to put more energy into my tricking sessions. They can last longer and I can put better quality work into those skills. So let's say we did that for 8 weeks. We've learned a couple of cool moves. We can do a back handspring. We can do a tornado kick. We can do the 540 kick. So now we're going to switch our priority to the martial art. So, still going to keep my gym training easy, but I'm going to dial back the time I spend tricking. Instead of 30-minute sessions, I might do 10-minute sessions. I might do 20-minute sessions. I might not learn any new skills, nothing new. I might just focus on the tricks that I already know and just run through those. And with that extra energy, I'm going to spend more time with my martial art. I might add back in that third day, or I might start training harder. I might focus on harder sparring sessions within reason and with a partner who's cool with that. Or I might do both. I might go train more often and I might go harder at my training. Of course, I would still be mindful of the, I just did legs, my legs are sore. Maybe I'm not doing a lot of kicks in my martial art class. This is a very basic concept of periodization and how you can make that work when you're trying to focus on multiple different things. Now, a lot of people feel that gymnasts or calisthenics, you don't use weights, you just use your body weight. And that's not really true. For this routine, Nightwing, we can see that he uses weights. We see him doing bicep curls. We see him using weights for his legs. And this is actually more accurate to actual gymnastics training. A gymnast might not use weights for their legs because the heavier their legs are, the harder it is for them to do their gymnastic skills. But they absolutely do use weights in their training. This is one of those things where you gotta think, if you're in a competitive setting and your goal is to be the best, do you really want to be a purist and lose to the guy who did hybrid training? Or are you willing to use all of the tools available to you and win? And in our scenario, maybe you are competitive in one of these vigilante activities, but still, if you're not competing, you might just want to save time. So weights would really help you cut down on the time factor when it comes to your strength routine. Now, for cardio, you can see that I logged jogging 3 times a week. This is really going to be dependent on what you want to accomplish. I've said before that if you take a martial art, they tend to have you do a really hard workout before they even start teaching you techniques. This can work to your advantage. If your class is heavy on cardio, then you might not need the extra day of jogging. If you allow your martial art, if you allow the sparring to make up some of your cardio, and if your goal isn't to just be this cardio monster, then you might be good off of just 2 days of jogging. Now, for the surprise. For my last few videos on this kind of topic, I've given a schedule and given some concepts and ideas on what you can do to achieve the skills that these characters have. But I don't think that's good enough. So I've decided that I'm going to create a full routine for as many characters as I can. So to start us off, I've created a full Nightwing routine. You can find the routine in the description below. This is a full 8-week routine with reps, sets, and rest times to get you going. I've explained how to progress the exercises in ways that keep your strength and muscle building. For this specific routine, I would say that it qualifies as intermediate, maybe even advanced, because it makes heavy use of gymnastics rings and it does require a solid level of strength as a foundation. If you're closer to a beginner and you want to prepare for this routine, or you just want a beginner version of this routine, you can order one on my website. You can just order a customized program, tell me what you want, answer my questionnaire, and I'll get you what you need. This program, this Nightwing program, is not going anywhere. You don't have to order anything from me. Just take your time, get going, get stronger, and then you can come back to this later. Now, there are things that are not included in this program or in other programs I will make. These programs are not tutorials. I'm not going to give you instructions on how to perform a pull-up or how to perform a front lever row. The program assumes that you are fully capable of looking these exercises up or that you already know how to do them. Now, moving forward, to make things easier for you guys, I do want to have tutorials on this channel for you to reference. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I don't love the YouTube Shorts concept. I do make shorts sometimes, but I don't like it. It kind of kills my soul. So, it might be a 10, 20-second video, it might be a short, but what I don't think I'm going to do is spend 15 minutes telling you how to do a pull-up when it's just not that complicated. I would prefer to just make these as demonstrations that you can just reference to quickly get you going. Now, that said, there are some exercises like the pseudo planche push-up or the front lever raise that might require a longer video. I'm not saying I won't ever do longer tutorials, but I'm just saying in general, I don't want to waste your time. There's some details on how I'm going to do this that I'm going to work out, but that is something I want to provide for you guys in the future. I think I might also make a very short video just to explain what the purpose of this channel is. Why am I talking about sleep tech stuff? Why am I talking about Abby and Nightwing? And why do I keep talking about working out? There's a purpose to it all, but I can quickly say the point of everything very quickly is to motivate you. I want to motivate you to use the media that we all consume and internalize it and use it to make us better people. Easy way to do that is just to get stronger, become more confident in our bodies, look better, whatever. I think there's a lot of power in taking that and then moving forward with it. But along with the motivation, I want to give you guys knowledge and the resources to just get it done. So you do the thinking and then you can do the doing. So that's why I've decided to start giving these full routines. So, for example, with my Abby video, I've actually updated that description to include an Abby workout. I would say that the Abby workout is just a little easier just because it is mostly weights based. So, you don't have to bench press 315 pounds. You can bench press 90 pounds. It's more scalable. So, with the Abby video, if you know a woman in your life who could use some motivation to get stronger, or some motivation to take Muay Thai so she can learn how to defend herself, send her the video. That would hopefully serve as some good motivation to improve the people around you. That's the goal of the video. Hopefully I'm accomplishing that to some degree. Anyway, that is the end of the Nightwing video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the program. Please leave your thoughts on the program in the comments below, or email me. I'm pretty sure my email is somewhere. So, yeah, I'm done.